Welcome everyone once again to today's webinar on Women, Girls and Tech, brought to you by Microsoft Connecting Up and TechSoup Asia. My name is Christine Hallam and I'm the Senior Events and Membership Coordinator at Connecting Up. We're based in Australia and we've been very pleased to be partnering with Microsoft and TechSoup Asia to bring you a series of webinars throughout the next few months and also the last few months about various topics on technology. And today's webinar specifically will look at some case studies on some organizations around Asia that help with the mission of helping women and girls, and how they use technology in their programs, in their organization, and how the importance of the role of technology in that case. So before I move on, just a few housekeeping notes. Today's webinar is recorded, so I will send you a link to the recording after the session, along with the slides and some further information as well. And just if you do have any questions, we do encourage you to type them in the question box and we will address them at the end of the presentation. So for now, before we move on to the actual presentations, I would like to hand you over to Gillian from Microsoft Citizenship to just give a few words about this program. Over to you, Gillian.
Thanks, Christine. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Gillian Pearl, and I work with the Microsoft Citizenship team, particularly focused on empowering nonprofits with technology. So Microsoft's Technology for Good program has been running for many years now, and within that program, Microsoft focuses on capacity building within the nonprofit sector by providing technology donations, webinars such as this, newsletters, training, events, and all sorts of other programs through which we work directly with NGOs. So we're very excited to be bringing you this webinar today, and we have some very interesting nonprofits who will be speaking to you and really about the intersection between technology, nonprofits, and women. And they all have very different types of stories to share. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll hand back over to Christine. Thanks, Christine.
Thanks, Gillian. Now, so before I pass you on to the first panelist, just to let you know who we have today to speak to you. First up, we'll have Su-Mei Thompson from the Women's Foundation in Hong Kong. Su-Mei is the Chief Executive Officer, and today she will be talking about the program that they've run with Microsoft called GirlSpark, and the idea of that program is to encourage girls in Hong Kong to take up ICT as a career path. So Su-Mei will talk about that in more detail. The second panelist we have is Dr. Ananya Raihan from Dnet in Bangladesh, and he will talk about the Info Lady program on how they use technology to open up employment opportunities for women in rural Bangladesh. And the last presenter today is Sam Raras from WeDpro in the Philippines, and she will just talk about their programs and also the way they use technology in their organization. So I will now hand you over to Su-Mei as the first panelist. Su-Mei will have to leave not long after her presentation. So specifically for Su-Mei's presentation, if you have any question that you'd like to be directed at her, please send them through and I will ask the questions after her presentation. So over to you, Su-Mei.
Great, thanks so much. Christine, are you going to pop up the slides? Brilliant, thanks. Okay, hi everyone. So I thought I would kick off with a very quick bit of background on the Women's Foundation. So who are we? We're a registered charity in Hong Kong dedicated to the advancement of women. We have three main goals, as you can see: challenging gender stereotyping, particularly to the extent that gender biases constrain girls and young women from making braver choices about their studies and careers. Another goal is to increase the number of women in leadership and decision-making roles. And lastly, empowering women in poverty to achieve a better quality of life for themselves and their families. So we aspire to conduct groundbreaking research. We aspire to run impactful and innovative community programs, and we engage in education and advocacy. So I was asked to talk a bit about the GirlSpark program, and we were delighted to partner with Microsoft to launch the inaugural GirlSpark camp in Hong Kong this past January. So the participants for the camp comprised 51 female first year or penultimate year students hailing from 5 different universities in Hong Kong, where they're pursuing a range of disciplines ranging from computer engineering, information systems, to business and arts. And over the course of the 3-day camp, they were exposed to a whole slew of things, from an in-depth explanation of the career options and opportunities in the ICT industry, as well as inspirational sharing sessions featuring female and male leaders from government, academia, business, and the NGO sector. So this next slide just shows a bit more detail about the composition of the female students taking part in the camp. As you can see, we had quite a diverse group. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, the main objective of GirlSpark was to inspire talented female students from different disciplines to consider joining the ICT industry. And we spent a lot of time with Microsoft. I think Mei, you're on the call, so chime in by all means. But we spent a lot of time with Microsoft coming up with the program design, and I think what we ended up with was quite unique. It's a very holistic design, and it's practical, as well as inspiring, and therefore hopefully more impactful. So, for instance, we wanted the camp to give the girls a really good idea of what it would be like to work at a company like Microsoft. So we built the program around a case study where the girls had to work in teams to solve the case. And the case required the teams to build a business plan around the launch of a new tablet computer. So it was, I think, quite a good simulation of real life, not just in terms of the issues, but also the experience of having to work effectively in a team. And each team had to present their ideas to everyone else. And we had an expert, a professional judging panel, who gave all the teams feedback and then picked the winning team. Over the course of the 3 days, we arranged for each team to have access to mentors. And these were seasoned professionals from many different industries. And the mentors provided the teams with advice on strategy and problem solving, as well as coaching them through their presentations. And as I mentioned before, we also arranged for these inspirational speakers to come in and punctuate the 3 days with panels and keynotes about their life journey and their careers. So this next slide shows the winning team, after the 3 days, we very much encouraged the girls to stay in touch, so that they're from 5 different universities, and even the ones from a particular university don't necessarily know each other. So there is a sense that they are starting to build a network of peers with similar interests who can mutually support each other. And we think this is very important because we know from all of our other community programs that women do much better with the support of others than on their own, and that women thrive on encouragement from role models, from mentors and peers, to see that they can break down complex problems and break through glass ceilings. So it was important for us to have that kind of holistic design with many different sources of encouragement and guidance. Happily, following the program, we got a lot of positive feedback with participants telling us that they found the experience to be transformational, inspirational, and so on. And we actually also managed to get quite a lot of positive press coverage, which is great because ultimately our goal at the Women's Foundation and at Microsoft was to spotlight the bigger issues at play here. Obviously with GirlSpark, we could only really kind of it's the tip of the iceberg. But what are the bigger issues? Well, in Hong Kong, as in other parts of the world, women are significantly underrepresented in the STEM subjects in terms of studies and career options. At the same time, we know that employers face a massive skills shortage in terms of IT and technology-related jobs. So in Hong Kong, there are no officially compiled statistics on tech skill shortages, unlike in the US, where it's been predicted that if current trends continue in terms of the underrepresentation of women in the field, the tech industry will only be able to fill half of the available jobs in 2018. So in Hong Kong, we know that in one of the leading universities here, HKUST, had no female enrollments at all last year for some of its bachelor degrees in computer sciences and information engineering. So, a real gender gap. In terms of employment, employment in ITC services is growing at quite a positive clip, but the vacancy rate of jobs that are still going kind of unfilled is about 4%. And we looked at the IT departments of about 60 companies in Hong Kong, and we got a very male-dominated picture. So clearly, if Hong Kong is going to thrive in this field, we need many more women to enter that field. So, what are some of the root causes for why women are underrepresented in the STEM subjects? Well, we think there are a couple of main reasons for this. For one thing, entrenched gender stereotypes and cultural attitudes about the relative aptitude of men and women in relation to IT and engineering. There's also a lack of exposure to future employers for IT jobs, so many female students don't have an understanding of those possible career pathways. There's an absence also of female role models and mentors, and a lack of a network with female peers. We know that a lot of times women who are studying technology and engineering can feel very lonely because there are so few fellow female students and also so few female faculty. And so that learning environment is quite a big deterrent. Looking forward, what can be done about this? Well, there's no easy fix. Tackling the underrepresentation of women in technology will require concerted efforts by parents, academia, the government, businesses, and NGOs. I think we all have a part to play. We know that kids in Hong Kong, in particular, maybe listen to their parents when it comes to the choice of academic subjects and careers. So we need parents as well as the girls themselves to see science and computers as girl-friendly and to understand the many rewarding career pathways that studying computer sciences can lead to. We'd also like to see the government take more decisive action to introduce computer programming and coding as part of the standard curriculum. This is something that's going to be happening in Singapore in the near future. And we'd like to see this happening in Hong Kong as well, that we are educating our children from a young age before gender stereotypes can form. We also think we need to see more support at college level, with more scholarships for girls to study IT and to ensure that the female undergraduates have faculty and peers to talk to. And lastly, companies need to make more effort to recruit more women into IT and technology roles, recognizing that a more diverse workforce is good for all manner of things: business performance, creativity, teamwork, morale, and company culture. So in closing, besides GirlSpark, what else is the Women's Foundation doing to encourage more girls and young women to pursue studies and consider a career in IT? Well, a few things to mention. So we have formed a Technology Advisory Council, and I noticed a couple of our members are online. So hi everyone, and thank you for dialing in, and also thank you for all your support. They're providing us with advice, insights, and act as a kind of governance level as well for our initiatives. Secondly, we're planning to launch what we're calling an Adopt a Girl School program. So the aim of this program is to equip students from underprivileged girls' schools in Hong Kong with exposure to programming and technology through workshops that we'll organize with the support of volunteers. And we feel there's a real need for a program like this because girls from underprivileged backgrounds face a double burden when it comes to technology skills. The poorest band of schools generally have outmoded technology, limited resources, and girls tend to shy away from STEM subjects early on without that kind of parental support and encouragement. We're also going to be offering scholarships to girls and young women to pursue degrees in STEM and web development programs, We're also in discussions with a digital training course provider to provide coding workshops for female executives. And lastly, of course, we're talking to Microsoft about rerunning GirlSpark next year. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks very much, Su-Mei, for that. As I mentioned earlier, if you do have any questions for Su-Mei, please type them in the question box now, as Su-Mei does have to leave in about 5 minutes. If not, if you do have a question later on during the presentation for her, we can address it to her on offline via email, and she will get back to you via email. But I do have one question for you, Su-Mei, and you were talking about this great program targeted at university students. But do you see a potential for GirlSpark to be extended to reach out to final year high school students as well, to consider a career in ICT, and therefore they would need a university course in ICT?
Well, funnily enough, actually, we are talking to Microsoft about introducing the program in high schools. And there is a plan afoot to launch a series of programming workshops for 15 to 16-year-old girls. So yes, maybe I'll come back in kind of 6 months' time and be able to share with you how that goes.
Great, thank you. Well, does anyone else have any question on the program? It doesn't seem like we do have anything else, but yeah, but can I just ask also quickly, what was your key selling point and how do you recruit people to apply for the program?
Well, we actually didn't have too much trouble. I mean, considering it was a pilot, I think we managed to get something like 250 to 300 applicants for 50 spots. And as you can, we actually offered more than 50 because the caliber was so good. So to some extent, I think we know that there's untapped demand, and of course, to some extent, the girls who put up their hand are kind of, there's a self-selection there. But we actually didn't really have to go and do a hard sell at all.
Sorry, just one final question before you run, Su-Mei. We have a question here from Dr. Raihan, who's also a panelist, but his question is, how do you measure impact of your endeavors?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. A lot of our work, and not just this program, it's not linear. So it's really got through kind of taking a kind of medium to longer term kind of framework to see whether there is any movement in kind of numbers in the industry, girls signing up for enrolling in courses that have traditionally had, as I mentioned, like 0 enrollments. So it's not a linear thing, and but we have to start somewhere as well.
Great, thank you, Su-Mei. We don't have any other question at this point, but as I said, for everyone else just tuning in, if you do have questions that you think about later on, I will email Su-Mei those questions and she'll get back to you. Thank you very much, Su-Mei, for your time and presentation, and we wish you all the best for next year's program, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, now the next panelist that we have today is Dr. Ananya Raihan from Dnet in Bangladesh. As I mentioned earlier, he's going to be talking about the Info Lady program, which is an infopreneurship for women in rural areas where they encourage women to pursue a career using technology and open up employment opportunities for these women. So I will now hand you over to Dr. Raihan to go through the program in a little bit more detail. Over to you, Dr. Raihan.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I feel really privileged to present InfoLady to the audience today. Before I start describing what we do on the InfoLady program, I would like to start with Nobel laureate, economist, and philosopher Amartya Sen, who defines development as freedom. And when we talk about freedom, it's about enhancing real opportunities for the citizens. And in availing those opportunities, it's very important to make informed choice. I would like to emphasize on the word informed choice. And it's all about how people know about opportunities and how then they go to the next step to avail those opportunities. So the Dnet works actually evolves around the access to information, because we find that this is the beginning of empowerment or creating agency, and particularly it's true for women. So Dnet is a social enterprise, not-for-profit social enterprise, and we try to foster innovations for empowerment for marginalized community, and particularly our focus is on women and children. When you talk about access to information, definitely it's not possible without engaging technology in an innovative way. And one of the key features of Dnet activities is that we always try to address a particular social problem linked to women and children, and we are very much keen to see the evidence of our endeavors, because otherwise I think the institutional vision may not be actually realized in the long run. So the InfoLady program is about, as was mentioned by Christian, that it's the entrepreneurship of women in rural areas. And the program is designed in a way that it can create multi-layer impact on lives of the marginalized people. In Bangla, InfoLady is Tothyo Kollani. So it means that doing good by providing information. So the objective of the program is to help marginalized citizens to overcome structural constraints. By overcoming structural constraints, we define like when a InfoLady moves to the doorstep, that removes the barrier of accessing services and information by women in a country context like Bangladesh. And also in some cases, InfoLady holds the hand of a woman and facilitates women to avail various kinds of entitlements which are very important for their lives. So as I mentioned earlier, it is about getting informed choice. So how did the InfoLady model evolve? We started in 2004. So the idea was whether it's possible to train rural educated women with education level of up to class 12 and to see whether they can use technology for providing information and other services. And it went for around 2 years. Then we saw that there is a demand for those information and services, and why not to test an income generation model. And then we tested the second phase, whether the InfoLady can earn money by offering services at the doorstep to the rural community, particularly women. And we saw a very good result, and we saw that the InfoLady can earn $150 to $200 per month. We found that it's possible that the InfoLady can be invited to make investment. So in the third phase, we tested whether InfoLadies are eager to invest, and the model can be self-sustainable. So we tested that, and in 2011 we started testing franchisee model for scaling up, and we found that there are some modification needed, and now we are working for scaling up through open action and partnership model. So how does actually InfoLady works? So basically InfoLadies are equipped with a set of equipment, a laptop, a volume of content on various areas of livelihood, healthcare, education, agriculture, disaster management, and so on. The laptops are connected with internet thanks to good internet connectivity even in rural areas. They are also equipped with a camera, digital camera, and some health testing kits. So the house of the InfoLady is used as a shop or a base where anybody can come to avail services offered by InfoLady. You can see in the diagram. And InfoLady also go to doorsteps where they form groups of women adolescent girls or farmers to offer information services. In case of agriculture, they are engaged in the whole crop cycle, from selection of crop and up to the harvesting and marketing. So they provide information like how to use the good quality seed, how much fertilizer to be provided, how to buy this fertilizer. And some info leaders are very smart. They also offer seeds and fertilizer to the farmers which are of good quality. So group sessions are basically for pregnant women and the women entrepreneurs at the village who do some various handworks. And also, other than group work, Infolady moves to doorstep to offer services to individual women or household members. Most of the services in this category relates to healthcare, like testing of blood sugar, pregnancy risk assessment, and relevant products also they sell, like for pregnant women they sell self-delivery kit or folic acid, and depending on the information on pregnancy risk, they also connect the women to the health facility so that they can deliver safe and they can take care of their pregnancy risk. And finally, the Infoladies are connected through a hub in the local area where they can sell the product collected from the farmers or other groups, and also collect the supplies to sell to the rural community. And one of the important features of Infolady program is it is not only about providing information and services, but also ensuring access to entitlement for the poor community who may not be always able to get those services, removing a number of structural barriers. So in this regard, they also use Right to Information Act and the provisions of the Right to Information Act to get access to those entitlements. And we have a number of success stories in this regard, and many women receive their widow allowances or old age pensions and other schemes announced by the government. So as a whole, so this model, if we identify the core components of Infolady model, so there are four core components. So we identify women as change agent, and then it is about access to services at the doorstep, and using ICT is very important, and also the linkage between information and services, and that ensures the income generation by the Infoladies. So the model actually has become very successful, and we can go to the next slide and see that we follow four basic principles. It's very important that the women selected for Infolady program have entrepreneurship mindset, and we identify a number of services which are in demand in the rural community. So critical mass of services approach is important, and in offering those services, it's very important to be in partnership. We have partnership with private sector, NGOs, and the government to offer services to the community at the doorstep. And of course, it's important that finally the whole endeavor is having impact on well-being and women's agency. And women's agency is particularly important to us because we have seen many Infoladies down the line actually have moved up in their lives, like becoming school teacher or entrepreneurs themselves, or NGO leaders, and we do not see Infolady would remain Infolady forever. Rather, we encourage to aspire more in their life. In terms of scaling up, we have been initially trying to scale up through franchisee model, and we found that a model complex like that needs to be simplified further, and we have been doing this for last 1 year, and we have been working with Ashoka Globalizer to get expert support in developing scaling model, and finally we have identified that it's good to have open access model to open up our innovations to be replicated by other agencies and institutions. At the same time, to develop partnership model where institutions can provide support to the local NGOs or local entrepreneurs who can get services from us to replicate the model in their communities or countries. And we are very happy to see that the institutions are coming to replicate our model. And recently we have had partnership with International Rice Research Institute, who are supporting local NGOs to replicate inequality model in Bangladesh. And we're working with private sector as well to mobilize resources to remain sustainable at the end of Dnet, where we need to ensure that adequate support is there to facilitate the organizations for scaling up the model across the country. And we are very hopeful that the inequality model will be spread up countrywide, and a women riding bicycle, which is a breaking barrier type of or challenging the status quo type of gesture, will be actually running all across the country from the morning to the evening and serving the rural community and changing their lives. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raihan. And this last slide, I think, just shows some images on how the Infinity program works from day to day in day-to-day life. All right. If anyone has any questions about the Infinity program for Dr. Raihan, please do type them in, and I will address them and I will ask them to Dr. Raihan at the end of the presentation. But for now, we will move on to the next presentation from Sam Raras from WeDpro in the Philippines, and she will talk about some of the programs that they do there in terms of stopping violence against women, but also on how they've used technology in the organization and their plans in the future. So I will hand you over to Sam now. Sam, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be, we're so glad that WeDpro is part of this panel. So WeDpro stands for Women's Education, Development, Productivity, and Research Organization. It's quite a mouthful, that's why we just shortened it to WeDpro. We are a nonprofit here in the Philippines, and we've been in the nonprofit scene since 1989. So we work towards basically the elimination of all forms of violence against women and children here in the Philippines. And so most of our programs are geared towards this mission. Next, please. So I will just run through several of the programs that we are now handling. So basically this is what we do. We are a feminist and rights-based activist. So we take on a feminist and rights-based perspective in everything in some of these topics, such as reproductive health, gender-based violence, trafficking, human security, policy advocacy, and environment. So, and how do we do this? We organize, we train, we capacitate our local officials, we advocate, of course. Research is a big part of the work that we do. Next, please. So just to highlight some of our recent projects, so we have a new one. We have Padayon sa Paglaom project, or Hope After Haiyan. So this one responds to the community needs that were affected by the Typhoon Haiyan last November here in the Philippines. So we have 3,500 families that we are helping in 7 barangays in Calooc, Leyte, and in Culasa and Tite. So here we address the basic needs for food, shelter, clean water, and hygiene, and shelter also. So that's the recent project that we have. The other projects that we have been doing is next please. We have Surviving Violence and Trafficking. This is funded by the European Union. These are stories of women and youth from Olongapo City and Angeles City. This is the red light districts here, known red light districts here in the Philippines. So basically we capacitated some of our stakeholders in these cities. Next, we had an external assessment of violence against women centers, or VAW centers as we call them, here in the Philippines. So we we strive to understand how effective the bulk centers are and recommended strategies on how to improve them. So this was again funded by UNFPA. We have also capacity building projects such as looking into the legal frameworks that address gender-based violence and reproductive health. We have created and user tested some of the communication materials on violence against women. And next. So, and we have also engaged Filipino Americans, what we call Americans here in Olongapo and Angeles City. We engaged them and we work with them in the first Filipino American fashion rallies. So that's just some of the projects that we've done so far. In terms of other things that we do, we are the country secretary. We are the country coordinator and secretary for the Philippine Network, or the International Women's Network Against Militarism. We work closely with community-based organizations, victim survivors of trafficking and other forms of violence. So we work directly with some of the NGOs also on the ground. And we work with and support other organizations who share our vision of a more just world for everyone. So this is a picture of, so next please. Next slide please. Sorry, I think I'm faster than there. So we also advocate. So how do we use technology? So of course, reports, project documentations, these are some just the software that we use in terms of presentations, in terms of publishing, cloud computing, surveys, and of course database. So this is how we use technology here in WeDpro. Next please. But I would just like to highlight the difference also of how the difference the technology has made in the way that we work. This is one of the projects that we had a few years back, around 2011, 2012. So it talks about, this is Kwento Ko or Dinig Ko, My Story, My Voice. These are digital stories of women. So we took a few of our victim survivors that we worked with, mostly Americans also, and we capacitated them in terms of the use of technology, the using Paint, Microsoft Paint, Microsoft Suite, Movie Maker, in expressing their frustrations, expressing their stories basically of what has happened to them. So as a form of a healing process. So we've done this together with Foundation for Media, it's a FMA, or Association of Progressive Communications, or Take Back the Tech Philippines. So we've done this with them. So that's one way where we highlight the potential of technology to be a tool also for women towards empowerment and expression. So technology has also changed the way we work, in the sense that it was necessary for us to upgrade our skills because we were working with different set of technology. And we also, what's this? Sorry. In terms of, with licensed software, of course, we'll experience less disruptions in terms of viruses and spam and other disruptions. So, and with the partnership with Techs of Asia, donations from Techs of Asia, we were able to streamline our ICT processes. WeDpro is basically a volunteer-based organization, so there's no ICT personnel at work in the office, but what we have is volunteers. So mostly our volunteers are online and very proficient when it comes to technology, and it has been. So in terms of future plans, we continue to upgrade technology, of course, and see also how it can help further our volunteers in terms of field work, and of course, as we work also in capacitating individuals not just through their knowledge of violence of legislative or strategies or policy reforms against violence against women, but also upgraded skills through training in terms of technology. And so thank you again. You can learn more about us if you go to our website. It's WeDpro.org. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam. So that was the last panelist that we had for today. It is now Q&A time, and I'm just wondering if any one of you has any particular question that you would like addressed to either Dr. Raihan before about the InfoLady program or to Sam about what they do at WeDpro and that project on visual storytelling on how the women use technology. If you do, so as I mentioned earlier, just type your questions in and I will ask those questions to them soon. But just a question quickly for Dr. Raihan. So what inspired you to start the InfoLady program?
Christian, can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, so what inspired Dnet and yourself to start the InfoLady program?
Okay, thank you. I think it's a very inspiring question for all of us working for InfoLady program. Basically, Dnet was incepted in 2001, and we found that there is no organization in the country who particularly works for integrating technology with the development. The primary endeavor was to understand the rural community, and we did an ethnography. We stayed several months in the villages and tried to understand what problem we need to address, where we can apply our expertise or interest based. And from that perspective, we identified that the gap between access to information for the rural community in general is a big issue in terms of improving their livelihood and getting access to opportunities. So we started working with how to create access to information for the rural community through telecenters, and our Only Tathya model was launched at that time. And eventually, you'll be happy to know that the Only Tathya model has been replicated countrywide by the government of Bangladesh. And in all 5,000 local government institutions now we have telecenters for the rural community. So in working with the telecenter program, we found that again there is a gap between men and women in terms of access to information and services. So we started to thinking that how we can invite more women to the telecenters, and we found that it's better, to go to the doorstep rather than trying to invite them and make them come into the telecenters. And both efforts should go in parallel. From that perspective, we launched the first version of the doorstep service through Mobile Lady, where we launched a help center, online help center, where the Mobile Lady connected the rural women to an expert, health expert or agriculture expert or lawyer, to consult with their problem, either violence, domestic violence or agricultural production, or their health and hygiene problem. So initially it was Mobile Lady, but we found that as the penetration of mobile phone was very rapid and the income by the mobile lady was reducing, so at the same time we saw the internet connection has become available, then the laptop became cheaper. So we thought that why not to make the telecenter mobile with the Mobile Lady. So combining Mobile Lady with mobile telecenter, and that became actually InfoLady. So in short, actually it was a process of innovations on the go, as we have been continuously watching the development of the technology end, at the same time the demand in the rural areas.
Thank you. Next question for you also, Dr. Raihan. And have you perceived a change in attitudes towards the InfoLady women now that they are earning incomes? Like, have these jobs made a difference in how they are treated within the context of their families by their husbands and their children and their parents?
Yeah, I think it's a very complex issue. Initially, there is resistance that you cannot go out and ride bicycle. That was the initial challenge for the info ladies. So we had to engage the family members to give them a chance. And when they started earning money, initially the husbands were very happy, but we followed subsequently in some cases that they have become even jealous, and many info ladies are actually struggling to manage the household chores and the work outside home, and due to lack of proper cooperation by their family members. But for many families, or most of the families, I would say, the family members actually not only cooperated, but also their lifestyle have changed. I know a family, an info lady whose mother was a beggar, and her brother could not go to school. So after becoming info lady, she earned money and she started sending her brother to school, and she stopped her mother begging anymore. So I think as a whole, there is a positive change within family, but in many cases, husbands' cooperation are not consistent enough, I would say.
That sounds great. I mean, that's a clear impact on how these programs have helped them in terms of their environmental and family context. How has this helped them in terms of technology? So obviously it seems like as an info lady, they need to be trained on using technology first before they were able to deliver all these services. So has this technology training in particular benefited them in their own life, like being able to use technology better?
Yeah, of course. I think technology was the key, because without access to the laptop, internet connection, it was not possible to offer services at doorstep. And the technology element was an element of excitement both for the info lady to be attracted to the program, at the same time for the community, that someone is coming to the doorstep and using very exciting technology equipment to offer services. So the excitement element was very much there, both for the both from demand side and supply side. But that is one side. In terms of offering services, technology is very key. You know that most of the families in Bangladesh have their relatives abroad who are working, and the Skype, instant messenger communications are really helpful to earn money for the info lady, at the same time getting the families connected to each other. So that is one example I am giving. And for pregnant women, when info ladies access the pregnant series and send the data to centers, and that was only possible that the internet connection was there, and the data was sent, and the referral service was possible to make available, or it was arrangement-wise actually feasible. So I think in the majority of the services offered by info lady is technology-centric, and that is the key for the earning. And also, I think it has another kind of impact for the community, that it also removes the technophobia within the community, at the very grassroots community. Okay, I would say that technology was the key for success of info lady program.
Thank you. Just one question here from the audience. What are your next plans for women in Bangladesh?
Yeah, actually we are working on multiple fronts. We have another program, mobile health program, where we offer information services for the pregnant women and new mothers for 89 weeks. And it's a very successful, for-profit, information service with an element of subsidy for the ultra-poor. It is branded Upon John. So mobile health service is there. So we're planning to expand the service up to 5 years. And the info lady program itself is going to be scaled up in Bangladesh and outside Bangladesh, as we are getting very good response from abroad as well. So we are preparing ourselves for a big launch with more and more services which can create a holistic, ecosystem for women in the rural areas.
Thanks very much, Dr. Raihan. We might get back to you if there are any other questions. I will now would like to ask a question for Sam. So Sam, you talked about a project where women created digital stories on a video and film and edit them, and they basically shared their personal experience using available technology. So what are your views on the benefit that being able to share these things so easily have on these women? So what benefits they might get more than about sharing their stories and creating their stories so easily? I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, thanks, Christine. Well, we had this project because we wanted to look at ICT not just as a tool to, also as a tool to, a therapy tool for the youth also. So it's not just writing, but also in terms of expressing themselves through videos, expressing themselves through the social media avenues, basically, because most of the beneficiaries that we have encountered are already active in social media, but they rarely see technology as a way to express or even warn other youth about the dangers of gender-based violence, basically. So we were also looking at if they become more familiar with the technology themselves, that they will be able to assist other victim survivors in terms of protecting themselves online, in terms of expressing themselves in the right manner online. So at the same time, it's also a form of advocacy, basically, that these things really happen here in our society. And because here in the Philippines, gender-based violence is still basically a social stigma. We don't talk about it. It's rarely talked about in our circles. So we try as much as possible to use these platforms to raise awareness also of the dangers that the youth are facing, not just online but also offline.
Thank you. And just one other question here. How do you think technology can be used in the future to help stop violence towards women?
Well, basically what we've seen so far is we can try to warn, we are involved also with one of the local NGOs here, trying to map violence areas where violence happens. So if we can, as much as possible, raise awareness of where these are happening, they can avoid such areas. In terms of electronic vow also, there's also these new trends that the bullying happening online, the stalking happening online. So raising awareness about this, reporting the violence through technology, through mobile forms. So in a sense, not just raising awareness, but also trying to stop violence against women and children.
Thank you. Just one last question here, and this question is addressed to both Sam and Dr. Raihan. So while I have Sam on the line, I might just ask you to answer first. This is a question from Kuruvila, and the question is, what is the role technology can play on family enterprises where women are active? So Sam, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm sorry, Christine, can you please repeat that?
Yeah, if the question is, what is the role technology can play on family enterprises where women are active?
Okay, well, basically it can streamline processes. It can help reach more clientele. It's here in the Philippines. I think a lot of social enterprises are also gaining ground because of the technology. It levels the playing field basically with the other bigger enterprises. I hope that answered.
Thank you, Sam. So Dr. Raihan, can you share your thoughts on what this question, like the role, what the role technology can play on family enterprises where women are active?
Yeah, thank you. I think the access to technology or innovative use of technology can open up a whole spectrum of opportunity, income opportunity or entrepreneurship opportunity for the women. On the one hand. On the other hand, it can be also a great tool in terms of reducing violence against women or women trafficking or other social evils, I believe. And Dnet is engaged with one of the programs which is called Missing Child Alert and Response, where we are trying to build up a system which can detect early or provide early signal and prevent trafficking and crossing the border, and it's very much prevalent for Nepal and Bangladesh. So that is one area. And in terms of income generation, it is already there in Bangladesh that the women entrepreneurs in rural area and urban area are connected, and they can sell their products through e-commerce. And the payment system is also being integrated over time. So in some cases, they also can receive payment over the internet. So and say this kind of e-commerce system can tap, I mean, a huge number of entrepreneurs in the rural area, and there are many examples of such kind of online sales across the globe. I know that Ethiopia is a very good example, and Bangladesh is coming to that road very recently. Other than the income generation or the, I mean, social impact, there is also, I mean, impact on women themselves in terms of taking new professions by getting access to technology, like freelancing or, I mean, higher education opportunity, and I can name many other things. So in general, in all three areas, I think technology can open new opportunities for women.
Thank you very much. So that was the last question for the day as we've reached the end of the webinar. And before I close the webinar, I'd just like to pass once again to Jillian if you have anything final to say.
I just wanted to thank our panelists for their time, and I thought it was great to hear such diverse stories and interesting ways that that these nonprofits have been using technology to empower women, to serve women, to protect women, and to advocate on their behalf. So thank you very much from Microsoft to our panelists, as well as everyone who's joined us for the webinar. And as Christine mentioned earlier, this webinar today is part of a series of webinars that we run on a monthly basis where we focus on different topics around the intersection of technology and nonprofit. So after the webinar today, Christine will be sending you a link to the recording as well as a copy of our monthly Tech4Good newsletter. And in that newsletter, you'll find a listing of future webinars, of events, and of articles that focus on nonprofit and nonprofits and technology. So please sign up for that, and you can see here on the slide where you can find us on Twitter, and on Twitter we often talk about, of course, the webinars and other resources for the sector. So thank you. Back to you, Christine.
Thanks, Jillian, and thank you once again for everyone participating today. I hope you found the webinar interesting and relevant, and hopefully either to inspire you on how you can use technology further in your organization, or maybe the kind of programs that you can add to your organization to help your mission for women and girls around wherever your location is, whether in Australia or in Asia or in New Zealand. So that ends the webinar today. You will get an email from me with all those materials that Jillian mentioned. So if you do have any further questions, feel free to email us, and as you can see on the slide, you can find out more about our organizations on those websites. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. Thank you.